Well, Brendon, since you're on, not only do I want to talk about Accepted, but I know you're like a big, you're a big like current movie follower. You follow everything that is the current year. You try to see.
I do. No matter how far I have to drive, I attempt to get.
Yeah, yeah. and weren't you seeing Jungle Cruise like a month ago?
I saw
and you
Jungle
sent me
Cruise
Snapchat.
a month ago. Yeah,
I
was the only one in the theater.
You had a solo theater for Jungle Cruise?
I've been in a solo theater the past 3 times that I've been in the theater. So it was when I saw Jungle Cruise, when I saw Night House, and then I just saw James Wan's new film. What was it like?
Malignant.
Yeah, Malignant.
John,
yeah.
That's what John has to go do after this.
That's what I'm seeing tonight.
Yeah. It's a good one. I enjoyed myself. I was in a solo theater, so it made me feel a little better watching it. So
yeah,
I like it.
I've done that, dude. Like the 3 straight times in a solo theater where I'm like, where is everyone? Like, how does the theater stay open? I'm the only one, And one of the ones I saw, and I've probably told you guys both this before, but I'll say it since we're on the air. I saw the Halloween remake, the David Gordon Green one, alone in a big ass ArcLight theater.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, I couldn't have been more scared. It couldn't have been like a worse idea. Did you see it around
Halloween, or when did you see it?
Yeah, because that's when the movie came out. It was October.
I'm shocked that you like were alone for like a Halloween.
Yeah. I think I missed the rush. Yeah, I think I missed the rush, and also that like ArcLight specifically would just be dead every time I went on a weekday during the day, because I worked at a bar, so it'd be like a Monday, and I would see a movie at 1 p.m. and there'd be no one there.
Right.
And, always. Like I saw Sorry to Bother You. And there was like one guy like 2 seats next to me, and I got out of the theater and I was just like to the guy, I'm like, wasn't that fucking crazy? Because it is the most insane movie, you know? But yeah, Halloween freaked me out seeing it alone. Yeah.
Well, see, that's what's weird for me though, is that I've seen all those 3 movies that I've been there for on my own. It's been like prime time. Like all 3 of them were like 7.
And you're still alone. Yeah.
And I'm still alone. Like I'm
That's
still
shocking.
Wow. So the only movie that I went to that had a bunch of people when I saw recently was I saw Marvel's Shang-Chi that they came out with, and
of
that
course,
was like
because the
completely
Marvel one's packed,
and like it was like sold out, and I was like, I almost hated it because I was like, wow, I don't like all these people being like in this theater that I'm at.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
Like, I was like,
for sure.
Used to having your own.
Yeah, I'm used to.
Yeah, and you saw the Lighthouse alone too.
I did. Well, the Lighthouse one was different. I had to drive like 2 hours to get to the theater that could actually show the Lighthouse. And I showed up there at like 7 a.m. for like their first movie of the day. And I think I was the only one, not only in my theater, but probably in the whole theater, I would say. There was no cars.
Like the whole building.
Just the whole building. Yeah, the whole building was empty. And I'm just sitting there like watching the Lighthouse and I'm like dead tired because I had to leave at like 5 a.m. to get there by 7 for the movie, and I'm like, wow, this is like the tone of the movie was like very shocking at 7 a.m. So, but it was fun. That was probably one of my better movie theater stories that I've had because I actually had to drive.
So far. John, like last time when I went to go see Brendon and we actually rewatched Accepted beforehand, we threw on the Lighthouse, and we had been doing shit like drinking like margaritas during the day and beers, and then we ate a bunch of barbecue and drank more beer, and then we decided to put on the Lighthouse. So of course Brendon and I like fell asleep during the
honked out, yeah.
And my brother Jake just watched the whole Lighthouse alone in Brendon's dark apartment. And he told me like later after we had left, he was like, that sucked. Like having to watch the lighthouse alone, like because it's just such a like fucked up movie, you know, and it's more fun to watch with other people and that sort of thing.
That's like when you saw Sorry to Bother You. Like, it's nice that you had that experience with that random guy. At least
he was in the theater. Yeah. Who knows? I could have had a full-blown paranoia attack from Sorry to Bother You if I was alone in the theater. Yeah. So Brendon and I did not make it through the lighthouse on that occasion, but Brendon made up for it because he did the 5 a.m. to 7 drive to Lansing to see it.
The original dedication. Yeah.
It's what.
I liked how Jake at the end, like when he told us that we both woke up for like the ending monologue from Willem Dafoe. And he was like, "Oh, I saw you guys both wake up during that time," and he was like, "That was such an odd time for you guys to be up then and start talking."
Right. I would like wake up during random moments, and I would notice you wake up during random moments, and it was just an in and out experience. And I would wake up during the weirdest scenes, also, just like where I'm like, "Oh, this happened. Like, what's going on now?" Yeah, but then we put on a second movie because Brett and I were officially awake, and we decided to put on Accepted. And Brendan and I were awake for the whole time during Accepted, and we had a really good time, if I may say.
Great time. I think I was more awake for Accepted, so I was energized after the nap. So I was ready ready for
it's a much easier movie to watch too. So
it's a little more relatable for us. And I could tell that Brendon was very much having a great time when we were watching Accepted, because he was laughing at everything, especially like Lewis Black. That's when I knew. I was like, that's when it hit me. When like if we ever do an Accepted episode, like I gotta have Brendon on for sure. And not only that, we've grown up with the movie together, so it also works because of that. Like, we've been watching this together since we were really young.
Right. Yeah. This was a film that came on very often in like our get-togethers for family reunions or whatever we had, Christmases and stuff. So it was a random comedy that we could just watch, something like Step Brothers or anything like that. We just tossed it on. It was a fun watch.
Yeah, and now it's like an old school thing for like our generation. You know, it's like I don't know, in that like Caddyshack Airplane realm for people in the 80s or whatever. You know.
Yeah, it's very of its time. It is very 2006.
Yeah. I mean, John, I assume you grew up with this movie too, right?
You know, it's actually fitting that we have your cousin here, because the first time that I saw it was
you watched it with your cousin.
Oh, nice. I remember when it came out. Like, there was a summer I spent like a long time in Oklahoma with my cousins, and the trailer was like, everyone was talking about the trailer at this time, and I swear my cousins and I every day would just say, "Ask me about my wiener," like all the time, every day, constantly. So yeah, those are like my earliest memories of this. It's just one of those movies where everyone remembers the trailer for like specific moments, and so fitting that we have your cousin on here, because
it's the ultimate cousin flick.
It's a cousin movie, you know.
It's the cousin episode of the Cinebums. So
Brendon and I have a very specific memory of watching this movie with not only our other cousins, but two of our uncles who did not go to college. No. And there's the monologue where Bartleby Gaines's father, Mr. Gaines, I don't remember his first name. Maybe they don't give him a first name, but either
might just be Mr. Gaines.
He goes on that famous monologue, which could be put in the trailer, where he's like, "Bartleby, society has rules, and the first one is you go to college." And then he just goes on and on and on, and you know, if you want to have a good life, you go to college. You know, if you want to be someone, and he's like literally having like losing his mind. If you want to be someone, you go to college, Bartleby. and not only do I just think it's a hilarious scene in general, but it was like when Brendon and I were young, we were watching this with our uncles who didn't go to college. I remember just like I was so young and naive. I was like looking over and I was like, I'm embarrassed for them during this like speech, because they're like, I mean, aren't they hearing this is the, I didn't get like 100% the ironic element of the father saying that. So I was kind of like, well, there's my uncles here who didn't go to college,
Right. For me, it was like the same, except I was a little younger than Luke, and so for me, I don't think I really understood like what it meant to them to like see this scene of like Mark Derwin just like continuing talking about college. And so being younger, like your first instinct when you see something like that is like to just laugh. And so I just remember myself laughing a lot. And as I got older, I was like, maybe I shouldn't laugh so much in front of these guys, like,
oh yeah, about that.
Because they're like, I'm like, wow, this is a weird scene for them to watch. Probably. I was like, we're like at a holiday with all the family here, and they're just listening to like this guy rant about how these people that didn't go to college are just off, and I'm like, oh wow. Like looking around.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and a big part of this movie that I find very relatable is that I think we all did this. We all grew up in I don't know where we come from, coming from the burbs in like nice neighborhoods, nice families. You grow up hearing like that you have to go to college, and that college is everything. College is everything where we come from. Like it's like I would hear my mom talk to me about in high school. It's the
whole point of like your first 18 years is just to
it's the whole point of your
do
life.
well enough to get into college.
Right. And then high school becomes all of that, and it is treated as so much more important than it really is. Like I remember so badly, I couldn't think of even going to a community college seemed ridiculous to me. I was like, I have to get into a 4-year college. Looking back in retrospect, it's not even that big of a deal. College isn't even as essential. Like it's just so blown out of proportion here. It's all, I don't know, it's kind of BS to me.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there was a point even in my high school where, I mean, there were parents and whatnot saying that, community college wasn't even like something that would be looked at like
like everyone's like embarrassed to go.
And I was like, wow, that's someone still trying to better themselves and get the education that they want. They're still
even if you just work after high school, as long as you're doing something, as long as you're not just taking bong rips at 11 a.m. till 5 every day, like you're fine. Like
Right.
And a lot of people go to college and do that exact thing. And but everyone's like, it's all right. He's in college. He's spending 50 grand to, do drugs all day.
Yeah, that's what when we were watching this the other night, I was watching with Carly, and she's just like, well, why doesn't he just go to community college for a couple of years? It's like, exactly.
It's an obvious answer to the whole movie.
It's like the first like plot point. You could just like, well, why not community college?
Yeah, it's easy fix for this whole dilemma right here. Is just go to community college for a couple of years. Yeah.
Right. But I also, while that is a plot hole for sure, I do think just the I don't know, just thinking in the way that Barnaby and all the other characters think in absolutes when they get rejected from college and think that is absolutely it, and that the movie actually leads you on to believe that, to me is like, it really plays into that, to like what I was saying, like what we grew up with in high school and ACT prep and just the craziness of the overproportion of attending college.
Pretty much college or bust at that point. I mean
that, because what happens in that grad party scene, Barnaby's screwed around and he's not going to college. He's throwing his life away.
I never realized how hilarious the parents are until this time watching. Because I always thought they were like
his
scary,
dad's a
like
total
intimidating
caricature.
As a kid. They're just so oblivious to like actual life and everything, and just way over the top. And I just like the deadpan and like dry personality that the dad has. It was so funny watching this time around.
The dad may be my favorite character, honestly.
I mean, he probably has some of the best one-liners in the movie.
There's like a few scenes. There's a couple more I'll bring up later where I'm like, where the dad he hits me harder than any other bit. Like Justin Long monologue, Lewis Black monologue, anything. You know, the dad will just say like one thing and it'll get me. All right, so I guess the first thing in this movie is Bartleby Gaines, Justin Long, is getting everyone fake IDs in high school. And all right, help me out. What's the name of the weird guy? Well, the first weird guy, the guy who's a founder of South Harmon.
The curly hair guy. It's Glenn.
Yes.
It's Glenn.
All right, thank you.
Oh yeah.
He's like trying to make the weird facial expression for the ID.
Right. And he's wearing like a high school shirt on, which he's like, dude, you can't wear like a high school shirt in this photo for your fake ID.
And then the dude who he misses out on his football scholarship goes, dude, you're in high school, you can't be and you're taking a fake ID photo, and he still doesn't get it, that sort of thing.
Right. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but John, I don't know if you noticed this either. Did you guys know that his name, like in the movie, is just labeled as like Hands? His name is just Hands. There's no name for him in the movie. Like they just call him Hands throughout the movie.
I think that's his nickname, maybe, for being the star wideout or something like that.
Yeah, but they never, like in the whole movie, really give him like a name. And I'm like, wow, I didn't notice through this movie watching it. I just watched it right before the cast, and I was like, they literally only call him Hands through the whole movie. I was like, this is just like a high school nickname that lives on.
I know. Movie. Wow. That's very lazy.
Catch that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird names in this.
Right.
Yeah. Like Sherbert Schrader, who pops in next to the room. That's
Schrader.
I'm Sherbert Schrader.
Abernathy Darwin Dunlap. The somewhat problematic ADD guy.
Yes, very problematic. Oh, that character gives me so much anxiety to watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pure ADD.
I think this scene where Bartleby is like setting out, he has this underground fake ID ring. I think this is good because it shows that he's not just like it shows that he has like a lot of ambition for
it shows
doing
it
things
shows
like
he's
this.
Like smart, like he's kind of like immediately there organizing something.
Yeah,
you know, like he already has the respect of so many people in his high school.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, being well liked in high school, like it's not like he just was antisocial and like
he has some connections clearly. The connects,
And I mean, to make the fake IDs, he has to be a smarter guy. Like, I mean, there's no way that.
And he's not like some loser getting like shoved into a locker. Like he actually has like charisma and he's like a leader. People follow him.
Right.
Clearly.
I also think since it's Justin Long, that the movie it like pulls it off that it's not so sketchy that he's making fake IDs in a classroom. It's like kind of actually like charming that he's doing it, you know, and he's like looking out for everyone when he's making the IDs. Yeah, this is just a very specific Justin Long performance for me that it made me like he was the guy for me as a kid, partly because of this performance, because I just loved him so much in it. I thought he was funny, and I also just thought I like admired him a lot in it.
He does carry it. Yeah, I don't know if I feel like this would be a completely different movie if you had someone else besides him. Because it's all on his just like
if it was Ryan Reynolds, it would be like a douchey, like it'd be kind of a more douchey, like devious, like I don't know. He'd bring that, you know. It's like he's a more sketchy, devious comic actor to me than Justin Long. Justin Long's like a nice, innocent guy, you know, that sort of thing.
He's only a dick to Blake Lively's boyfriend. He is like
right, but he does it in like kind of like a smart alecky way.
Like
it's
so sly.
He's not like
so snarky.
like directly. It's just like
he goes like
he goes like
Trent, I mean Kent. He does
right.
It's funny, and I mean everyone, of course, like Floyd Ambrose is set up to for everyone to hate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like, of course, you're like, yeah.
Right. They set him up as that like kind of frat guy that everyone knows on
Yeah,
campus and
it's such a
owns
good like
everyone.
he's
And...
such a good frat looking guy. Like his hair goes in
Oh,
like
yeah.
multiple, it sticks up in like multiple directions, and
Yeah.
his bone structure is excellent.
Right. When they have like the Roaring 20s scene, he's wearing like his perfect suit and hat
Yeah.
off to the side a little bit. And I'm like, yeah.
The guy's like, I'm gonna have that.
You're right.
And he's like, shut up. Stop giving out the rapey vibes of our frat.
Yeah, right.
Even if that guy was like a neurosurgeon or something in real life, he would always just look like a frat guy. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Perfect casting. Yeah.
And so I think next it's like it's announced that it's like summer for the school or something like that. Well, before they like go outside the school, I think Sherbert Schrader, Jonah Hill, like says like, guys, you can't be doing this, you know, like, and that just, you know, is like how Barnaby's organizing the sketchy thing in for the fake IDs, and the college, Sherbert Schrader is fucking, you know, going like, guys, this is illegal. There's paperwork, you know, like documents you have to fill out.
He's like the voice of reason constantly. And he knows all this stuff that I can't believe any 18-year-old knows.
Yeah.
But
right.
Yeah, it's
well, I think he makes the website for for the shit school.
Yeah.
Right. And he sounds like one of those kids that was kind of brought up to be that way. Because I think in this scene as well, like when they talk about college at the end of like the ID scene, he's like, I'm like the fourth generation Schrader.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm the fourth generation Schrader.
Schroeder, or the or whatever, Sherman Schrader, to go to like to Harmon. And so he's like, this is like so important to me. He's like, I've been working like my whole life. He reminded me of like a lot of the kids I knew that were like, I've been working for 4 years to go to this crazy school.
Right,
you know?
right.
I'm like those people probably do a lot more than like I did at that time too. So.
Well, yeah, actually had some sense of responsibility, like especially if like I was trying to get, my stress in high school was to get in, like to schools. I didn't care. I wasn't trying to go to Northwestern. I wasn't trying to go to U of I, U of M, University of Chicago. I wasn't trying to do anything crazy. I was just trying to go to like a respectable school, really. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But those people in high school, like who are going to those, are like Sherbert Schrader and that gal who I love in this movie who didn't get into Yale.
Oh, Rory,
yeah. Where she's like, I didn't get into Yale. Right. And you could tell her life has just dropped, you know.
Mm-hmm.
When they get out of the school after taking the fake ID photos, we get introduced to Blake Lively's character, who is one of my few quarrels I actually have with this movie. Is like, I'm not a huge fan of the writing of Blake Lively's character, because I mean, I'll explain it later as we get more into the plot. But essentially, in this first scene, she comes up to Barnaby and she says, like the prom comes up, and Barnaby's expected to be asked by her, or at least that's his hopes, and she asks him to mow his lawn, and it's got this like great comedic timing thing where he's just like, mow your lawn, and like instead of going to prom with her. And it's like fuck, man, even though she goes like oh sorry, she goes like that after, like I remember as a kid I thought oh wow, she's being really nice about it, but it's like now I'm thinking like that's a real dick move to ask him to mow your lawn.
Yeah, and to ask it the way she did, like it totally sounds like she's gonna ask him to go with, and then he's like, I'd love to.
Right. They set it up as like an anticipation thing where you were like, okay, like this girl's gonna ask him to the party. Like this means for like a girl that he knows really well, and then it like dropped the ball that she was just like using him.
Well,
like
and so it brings me to later, like she never shows any real interest in Barnaby. until she has trouble declaring a proper major that she's passionate about, and then Bartleby's like, hey, there's this fake school that I go to here where you can do any major and you can just write it on the board, and then she's into Bartleby after that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of like
school. He buys her stuff. There's a lot of stuff
that
goes down.
He has this pimped out room that he's used from all the tuition money from all the kids, and she's like, Bartleby, place is incredible. I'm 18. I live in a dorm, you know.
I don't know. I'm also John, jumping ahead a little bit, but did I like her character?
Yeah, did you like her character?
I mean, this is the only time where I really thought that I didn't like her character. Before I just was fine, and growing up had a huge crush on her. Yeah. But I also thought that, like, this is jumping way ahead, but when she finds out that the school is fake, she's like so mad at Bartleby.
Right.
But then after the board approves them for like a year, she's like, oh my God, Bartleby, I love you. Like, you're amazing.
Doesn't she say like, oh,
okay, now
what is the line even specifically? It's like, why can't both things be true or something like that? It's like really
so dramatic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the fact to me that she doesn't realize that the school is fake. You know, like other people in the movie, it's more understandable. Like they haven't been to, like, it's their first college, you know, it's their first college experience. And also they're kind of played off as not too bright. But Monica has already been at a respected institution for like multiple weeks. So how does she go to this abandoned mental institution and sees a board with majors written on it, a half pipe, sees Lewis Black saying, you know, going on all these ridiculous rants, and think, oh yeah, I believe this is a real school. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
And she's like, oh, Bartleby from high school is like the president of this college. Well, that's totally normal.
Running it.
And no one ever, except for Bartleby, ever says what's going on. And the whole crowd comes to see what's going on when Bartleby says, all right guys, we're gonna have class now, you know. It's like
what? Yeah, well, I mean, when she first comes to the school, I always love that scene because she came in and Bartleby is just sitting in a room in the mental hospital with like 50 kids all just laid out with desks.
And
he's
all
like,
isn't an auditorium or something?
Yeah, something like that.
And he's just there like conversing with people. And it's like, what is going on? It looks like,
and leaves to give her a tour.
It looks like an assembly meeting or something.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's no one running it. It's just all these kids.
And he just gets up in the middle of this talk and just walks out with her and is like, I'll just give you a tour. And she's like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, it's totally fine. Like, he's not supposedly in a class.
He's not there's nothing required of him at all. And it's like, here at South Harmon, you can design your own room. So when he shows her the room, it's like, when is that ever a thing? You design your own rooms?
And especially he like just moves in there, but he knows more about the school than anybody. Like, nobody catches on to that. Yeah. Like, I didn't know anything about my college until like year 2. Yeah. Well,
I think too, we're going deep now into this Monica plot hole, like just her ignorance or whatever you want to call it. There's that rock concert where they have that big party and it gets announced like, all right, now here's our fearless leader, Bartleby Gaines, and it's, you know, then he goes up and sings and she's watching that whole thing. And so it's another thing where, I don't know, you know, if at Facebook they were like, all right, now here's Mark Zuckerberg, you know, it's literally has that vibe, and she does not pick up on any of it.
Yeah, it's just quite shocking when you really think about all these people and how easily manipulated they are into thinking that this is a totally normal thing. Yeah.
And then after the Parents' Day scene, she's just like, none of this was real, huh?
She asked him, like, is any of it real?
And Bartleby Bartleby, like, Justin Long's does a great job acting here, but I think it's kind of a stupid line. He goes like, that's not true. Like, yeah, it wasn't real. But like, I don't know, he is coming from the place, which we'll get to later, that, you know, what actually happened at the school wasn't a bunch of nonsense, that they were actually like they're bettering themselves and just in their own way, which is at the end the theory of the movie. So yeah, we get to the scene after where Justin Long opens all his letters and he hasn't gotten into college at all. And it's funny how it's a huge thing that happens, but it's funny how funny it happens. He's just like, no, no, no. And he's like, I can't. And then he says that state was his fallback school, like his fail safe. He didn't even get into there. And then his like really smart sister, who's, I don't know why she's so smart. Apparently, she's just being a total dick to him. And then he has the dinner where he reveals he didn't go to college, and it's just so crushing for his parents. And it really is a tone shift in the film to me that it really, like, it's just the biggest of biggest disappointments that he didn't get into college.
Right. And that's one of my more favorite scenes, because the scene starts off with him like giving his parents like spreadsheets and like statistics about like why he shouldn't go to college.
Right.
Like, he was I can either make 80 grand or I can like get rid of 80 grand. Yeah. And like his parents are just like, you can tell just from his parents' characters that they're
so confused.
Buying it. They're just just thinking this is like delusion of like a high school senior, like that he's they don't understand.
Which is another thing, like obvious, like just argument. Even though it is a bit in the film, it's an argument, obvious argument against college, just from the film. Right. Yeah, it's kind of just the blues for the next few scenes of. That he didn't get in. And
yeah, they continue with that graduation scene with was it
Jim O'Hare? Maybe the Schrader's dad. The Schrader's house, with Jim O'Hare plays Schrader's dad.
And he's like, "Oh, where are you going, Barnaby?" Like, all neighborly dad, like coming up to him.
Right.
And
Well, and even when he says, he makes the initial joke, when Barnaby says, that's a good question, sir. They like immediately go with the humor with it. I'm like, come on. They're like, where are you going? They're like, of course you're going somewhere. Everyone is, you know, and it's really just played off as like, this is about to be the best 4 years of your life for everyone around.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the same scene we find out that like Rory like didn't get into Yale
at that
party because she just walks off.
Yeah, and then all the people who didn't get into college all end up hanging out like by like a 7-Eleven drink type place, like just drinking Slurpees all summer without anything to do. Just and fuck, man. And then how does I actually, for obviously I remember a lot, but how does the initial idea to start the college begin? Did anyone think of it?
Yeah, I did.
All right, good.
And the reason that I thought of it, though, because I didn't get to mention at the beginning of the podcast, was that I literally just finished watching the movie like right before this podcast. Like I literally got off of work at 5 for my corporate job that I need these beers to get away from. And I just sat down and watched Accepted, which I can say is probably one of the better movies to watch after like working all day, because you can just turn your brain off and not have to think about it. But I recall that in the scene, I remember that was one of my things that when looking at it this time around it was odd to me that he came up with it so quickly, because I remember the scene is just him after that dinner scene sitting at his computer and just like staring at like the South Harmon, or just the Harmon logo.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
he's
I
like,
think
what
that's
can
all it
I
is.
do with this? And he just slaps it on like a
Yeah.
spreadsheet, and that's
Yeah.
the whole scene. Like that's
That's
just
the yeah.
right. That's the
The
whole
whole
scene.
montage.
And he
Which is a
somehow comes up
thing
with a
that
college.
which is a thing that John could do for sure.
Yeah.
Just go on any, like Bartleby, just go on any website and be like, dun 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 dun. Now it's my thing, copyright.
We
Right.
can exploit some 18-year-olds if you guys want to. I'll whip up a fake college website. Yeah.
I mean, the money that they made in this, like later in the movie when they explain how many checks they got, it's it's hard to resist. Can't lie.
Yeah, for 18-year-olds. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
so funny that's how. Yeah, he just really, it's all it is like a little copyright fraud. That's all it really is. He just copies a brand logo, and then I think he shows it to Jonah Hill, and he is like, the South Harmon Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
What?
You know that's shit, right? You know
it
your
literally
shit.
spells shit, which is the most like
Right.
2000s humor, and
Yeah.
but
yeah.
they kind of go with it the rest of the movie, and later like at the end speech where Bartleby's like, it's shit or something like that. Like after he gives the whole speech, he's like,
It says welcome
I don't know.
shitheads outside.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
It's just kind of really fitting.
They embrace
The
it.
mascot's
It grows
a
on
shit
me.
sandwich, so
Yeah. It's a shit sandwich.
Yeah,
So
Jonah Hill is just
initially-
constantly roasting
right.
Bartleby the entire time.
That's what his career was, man. He was in roast mode. You ever?
Yeah.
I mean, if you rewatch Knocked Up, Jonah Hill is in full roast mode that whole time. He's
right.
like he's making fun of Martin Starr's like beard the whole movie. That's practically Jonah Hill's character. So then Jonah finishes the website.
Which is funny considering that like all he does is criticize his ideas, but he's still like, I will build this whole website.
I'll do everything for you. I'll do all the heavy lifting. Yeah.
Right.
Which is how everyone applies.
Right.
And and he makes the crucial mistake of making the application button clickable so that all these people later who come to the college can find it, but that is a huge spoiler which we haven't gotten to yet.
Whoa, easy.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah, right. And then and it's all based off this one small thing. Which even at the beginning of the movie to me seems so huge, but it really isn't in the grand scheme of how big this ends up becoming. Like it's all just so Bartleby can get dropped off somewhere and his parents can think he's at college. That's like the whole plan. Like that's all. Just he just needs it to pose as a college just for like a day. That's all he needs. And so that's how then they find the mental institution, the abandoned one. At least they clean it up, and then they hire extras to pretend to go to the college when they drop him off there, and it's just this whole scheme, which actually in a way is it's a very similar to a filmmaking thing. It's building sets. It's an act. It's a manipulation, that sort of thing. So Bartleby would be a great director, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's they create a piece of art that you can interact with. Like it's a fake college. Yeah. It's an artistic experience.
Pay tickets to go walk through, right?
Yeah, it's like the Van Gogh exhibit. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But everything seems to go pretty well, and then Bartleby, he reads he's like, "You've been accepted." And everybody cheers.
Congratulations, you've been accepted.
And he plays it off on the couch, like he put it in the mail himself.
Yeah.
I got it.
He's like, well, I gotta open it first.
Right.
He's just playing it out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's exactly.
His mom does a typical what does it say?
Yeah. And he's like, put her there, kiddo. The father. He's always shaking his hands.
Cold and aloof father of the 90s.
Right. And I don't think they ever really hug ever this movie. It's always shaking hands. On Parents' Day, he's like, here's 5 big ones for my college boy. Later. And then the dad questions. He's like, he's like, set up a meeting with the dean like later, and he's like, it's like, what's all this be what you want to be crap? Like that's like what that's what's on the website makes him like fishy about it.
Right. And
but then he's so easily convinced too. Like Bartleby could say whatever, and he's like, okay.
He's like, well, Dad, that's just I think that's just something they got to say, or something like that.
And that was something for me too that I thought was funny. Was like, I don't know any parents that dropped their kid off at college were like, let me set up a meeting with the dean of the whole
right school. and like, think that is something you can just
happen.
Do right away. Yeah. So then that's when we get introduced to Lewis Black's character, who is yelling at a kid and ends up going on like really like deep economic like political rants with the kid when he's like talking about, I don't know, the kid wants the pump, I guess.
Oh yeah,
that's what the kid keeps yelling.
Story,
yeah, he's like, I want
the pump.
And he's like, I don't have the pump. I don't got it. And Lewis Black like is just awesome. He's just rules in this movie for me. Like every time that it's a scene with him, I'm like, yes, thank you.
Yeah, he was a great pick for this because he was like
definitely.
His whole background is he used to be like a professor or administrator or something,
right?
Like in college, and then
at the end, I think they said he actually worked for like Harmon, like the school.
That's what I thought.
That they were at.
Oh wow!
Which I was.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Obviously,
his life is taking a turn, and he
got bounced out of the like education system, basically.
Yeah. Right. Well, he said he put his resignation in with like a bag of like dog crap at the end, like a bag of dog shit. He like put it on the dean's desk, and he's like, I resigned, but that's what I did to resign.
So he's like one of those just like heavy intellectual, cynical, like old drunks, you know, and he goes on these just babbling rants about everything. It's so great. And so I mean at that point the college is like ready for business, at least for Bartleby's parents, and that's when they drop him off at school. And what's that girl's name again? Rory's like, okay, it's time, everybody. and his parents drop him off, and it's just, this is one of my other favorite Bartleby's dad's moments. He's like, and it's but their whole dynamic while they're dropping him off, where he's just like, they see the building of the mental institution that is the college that they've never heard of, and he's just like, this is the real deal right here. And Bartleby's like, yeah, and it's like, this is it. It's just like they're just like looking up at the building and like, wow, so much is gonna happen here, you know.
Yeah, he's like a dad looking at like a classic car or something. He's just so like, yeah, this is what I like. This is where things get done. This is where people
He's
learn.
Like a college. He's like a college
somebody.
nerd.
Yeah, it was like flashing back to his college days of him growing
up. The real deal right here. Well, and then when he sees the rooms later when they're giving the tour, there's the bars on the window, and his sister is like curious of why there's bars on the window, and his dad says, I like it. You'll study harder or something like that.
Yeah. He's like, not a lot of extras. very minimal.
Very minimal. Study harder. And so then they do the meeting with the dean, and I forget how Lewis Black kind of breaks character, you know, of what was supposed to play the good dean, but something essentially sets him off.
I remember he jumps in and he's just like, we're growing like a whole new generation of like buyers and sellers.
Buyers and sellers.
And and the parents like continued to like be skeptical. They're like, we don't understand. And for me at the end, when it got to that scene where he was just like, well, what's college about? You know, like, to get a good job.
Yeah.
They bought it like so hard. Like,
he's like, to get a good
that's
job.
A good point.
Right.
Yeah. He says to get a good job with a good starting salary. And the dad goes like, couldn't agree more. He says, couldn't agree more. And he's sold on the college right there.
Yeah, I think
And
right before then he just noticed. That was the first time he noticed Bartleby and how like paranoid he looked, and then he's like, "Oh right, I'm supposed to be playing a character right now." Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Like, good
Bartleby's like,
job.
shit. And then they drive off, and Justin Long's just like, bye.
Right. The actors leave, and it's just them.
Yeah. Then
and
they're just gaming.
yeah, now it's pretty much
Which
exactly what they wanted. They
they're
just
like,
get to
we're
hang
in
out.
college. Yeah, he says, Glenn's like, what do we do now? He's like, we're in college now. We can do whatever we want.
And then shortly after, stop me if I'm missing something, but then I think is when we meet Abernathy Darwin Dunlap,
Yep,
who
exactly.
then, yes, the problematic character with ADD, who
Right.
he Bartleby first thinks that he thinks it's a mental institution still, and then
Yeah.
they slowly pan out, open the door, and see hundreds of kids waiting to get in.
Right.
Basically.
It's a great moment. Like, I love that song that comes on where it's like, oh, look at all the lovely people. All the like, I don't know, punk alternative 90s 2000s needle drops that are in this are just like they fit with it,
So
you know. Because it's like rebel white guys in this, so it kind of works for like that and the level of humor that's going on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I figured we'd bring up the music at some point. It's got a great mix of 90s and 2000s. Specifically, there's that Green Day montage.
Yeah.
That I had to remember.
Yeah, there's that montage, and then there's the one at the end when, no spoilers, but after the kind of the climax of Parents' Day happens, they have kind of like the like the dun 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 dun.
Oh, the drummer kick.
And
that
yeah,
is
the
such
drummer
a song
kick.
of its
Yeah,
time,
don't kick the drummer. Is that what it is? Or let the drummer kick, and it's like they just continue that song through the scene of like
creation.
Which for me, I was like, I loved it. I was like, that was perfect.
I forgot that song existed until we watched it again at your place. And that song came on, and I was like, I forgot this was like a thing. Like, this was probably a #1 song for like a week or something.
Oh yeah, it was like their one hit that kind of like really blew up, and I was like, wow, I kind of it was the same thing for me when we watched it at my apartment. I was like, wow, I forgot this song was like in this movie, like at this part of this part of the movie too. I was like, it's kind of perfect for what they were trying to say. So
it's not like a song like what's that one song like Paper Planes or Fly Like Paper, Get High Like Planes.
Paper Planes,
Paper Planes.
Yeah, Paper Plane. That song's in a lot, like very much from like 2000s kids. Or I mean, it might be a early 2010 song even, but either way, it's like a very our generation thing, but it's in a lot of movies.
Right.
Let the Drummer Kick is not. I don't think that is in a lot of movies, so it's really time capsuled in accepted,
Yeah, I couldn't name another film that it's in at all. I would.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I'm trying to think. Like, it was in Inglourious Bastards, and No Country for Old Men had to let the drummer kick. When so that's when back to that. That's when Justin Long goes like, you were saying you were accepted here? And he's like, yeah, we all were. And then it's that pan to all of them. And then they all just kind of walk in. It's so weird. Like, they're so creepy. They're like a bunch of zombies, aren't they? Like,
all right, I guess we get to live wherever we want and do whatever. Yeah.
And it kind of plays on this.
At all.
It's like, it's kind of almost saying like, oh, here's all the scummy kids who didn't get into college.
Right.
I do like the idea of this like misfit college for all these weirdos.
Absolutely.
That's definitely.
I love it.
Oh yeah,
I love it, and it actually ends up being.
The group they built is very cool. Like I love like the characters that they eventually get out of this like gathering of people.
Right.
Yeah.
And it ends up being an environment that they can actually function in, which is a big thing for me. Because as he takes his tour of Harmon after all this fiasco, and he finally realizes, like, his plan is not to be like, all right, we gotta shut this down. We gotta stop this now. Like, this is too real. You know, he starts to investigate. He's like, how do you run a college? And then he goes to Harmon, and he realizes that it's this like really dull, like boring environment of sitting in class, and everyone's really stressed and just not sleeping because they're studying all night and that shit. And like the movie has like all these kids like at South Harmon who would never in a million years be able to do that. Like clearly, like they all have, like, outside of the problematic ADD character, all the other ones have, like, I don't know, they're just unique in that, like, they're skateboarding all day. They're doing like, I don't know, they're just more oddball creative types.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the mindfulness and like meditation class. All like the hands, like he realizes his artistic passions.
Right.
He's like, let go of football
class.
Yeah. Like the African like tribal carvings, whatever, with the huge penises.
The big dick.
He
class.
found his calling. Yeah.
Right.
It speaks to him, Misa.
Yeah. The word speaks to me.
Yeah.
It speaks to you? Yeah.
Another weirdo kid that I really liked was the one who wanted to blow shit up with his mind.
Oh yeah.
Yes, his name is Freaky Student.
Yeah, they just named him that. Yeah,
that's
and
his name.
He's played by Jeremy Howard.
That was the name they gave him.
If that matters to anybody.
Student. Yeah,
I know. Like, is that guy, like, is he that actually how he looks, or is he CGI'd out in any way? He must just look like that.
No, I think he does look like that. He was in,
because he's so freakishly like skinny. That man.
He's very tall and like. He was in Catch Me If You Can, I think, as well.
Oh,
I can't remember the role he played exactly, but
he
was teen waiter.
Is that what he was? Is that what he was? That's what he was in Catch Me If You Can. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he was also
got
in
a very
The Grinch.
distinct look.
Was he in The Grinch? What did he play in The Grinch?
Drew Lou.
He must have played a Who. Drew Lou.
He probably fits in that though. Like the Who's are kind of like weird looking, yeah. So he probably played one of those like brothers or something, something that looked strange. So yeah, that makes sense.
I'm glad to know his filmography now. That was a necessary piece of information for sure.
Put some respect in his name, yeah.
Right, man.
Yeah. So yeah, then they're all freaking out, and then they have that auditorium scene where they're all just kind of waiting in there. And the ADD kid is still like going like, oh, and then Barnaby comes out and he's like, they're like, who the hell are you? And he's like, that is a good question. And he finds out like they all didn't get into other colleges, and he suddenly doesn't only feel sorry for them, but he like relates to them, and this is like one of the first big like Justin Long speeches in this movie. I mean, that is really good. He's like, I didn't get into a real college. I mean, a really good college. And he's like, we say yes to you here at South Harmon. And then they all start cheering. And I think this may be one of the few like moments of the movie where there's like a score. Like maybe, I think it might be a score. It's like the score kind of goes like da da da
right.
da, as they're all like clapping, and
it's very uplifting.
He's like, he's like, welcome. Then he goes to Harmon, and then they like, that's where we have all this stuff we already talked about, like the stressful environment, and he runs into Blake Lively, and she says that she's like, my advisor was telling me that certain classes in photography don't apply to a major in photography. It's just like, and Barnaby's like, well, that doesn't make sense at all. Right. And
her character in there is strange because like even at the end of that talk that she has with him, like John and Luke, I don't know if you remember like the scene, but like when she like after he's done talking with her, she's like, I gotta go, and he's like about to say something, and she just like walks in the building and shuts the door, and he's like, oh, I miss it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And I was like, she just like again blew him off like for like the 4th time this movie.
Right,
like,
and he just like listened to her problems, and she's
right.
also she's so in her head that she has to go to class now that she doesn't even say goodbye to him. She just gets caught up and she's in the building. Yeah,
gonna be late. Yeah, and then
I don't even think she says that.
No,
I'm
pretty sure she just like shuts the door. Like she's just like, oh, good to like
she just
see
walks
you.
in.
And then I just remember the scene of like they literally like closed up her shutting the door, and I was like, wow, like that's not a scene I remember from her in this movie.
Yeah,
I was like, that's very
strange. And so I think after that is where we get the montage of them asking everyone what they want to study.
Right.
And that's how they develop the board. I mean, yeah, I'm starting to get a little foggy now. They all say it's like the talking head shots of them going like, what do I want to study? Right. Like, hey, you were supposed to tell us, that sort of thing. And
right, it's like the break the fourth wall kind of like interview.
Yeah,
moments.
And so then I think they make the board then.
They do,
and they all have all their passions there now at the school, I guess.
Yeah, and when they continue that montage, I think that's when they start like buying things with like their money. Because that was something that we didn't
the school set up more.
They brought in so much money, like when the stripper hands him money, and like they pour out like that huge bag of mail that has like hundreds of checks for $10,000 each.
Right.
Like
stripper hands him cash, just straight up cash, all her tuition money. Yeah, and. Yeah, so that like the pool is now set up. It's not gross. There's a half pipe. There's a half pipe in there.
They buy the whole new kitchen and stuff. And...
yeah, where Glenn's like,
Glenn's
like, what are you? Is this the holiday montage already? Are we already there?
This might be.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's the Green Day montage from there.
It's like the good times, like everybody's doing what they want to do.
Lewis Black is on the half pipe giving everyone like it's that shit storm we call life.
Yeah, right. I liked how they made his character like kind of just starting to speak in front of his like RV that he parks in front of like the school where he has like 5 or 6 students, and then he like slowly grows into this like huge like cult of people that are now like listening to his speech.
Well, and there's also what I forgot about is there's a drink bar now too, where like Glenn makes drinks, the tiki bar there, and that's when like the rock and roll guy who delivered like he delivered a bunch of kegs. He delivers kegs to Lewis Black, and and he's like, I've been building a thirst up here, and he comes back. He's like, I always wanted to go to college, but the military pretty much like, I don't know. It pretty basically says the military fucked up everything for him.
Yeah, right.
And he says, and he's like, I could pay you all. And Barnaby says like, we just started the semester. I'm sorry, we can't do it. But then he says, I can pay you all in cash now. He's like, all right, you're in. And then and like later that guy's like, I want to rock, and that's like what he wants to do for his like studies. He basically just studies rock and roll.
And there's a great phone call with Bartleby's dad there too, where he's like, "Where do you want me to put the kegs?"
Yeah.
Like, did you say something about kegs? He's like, no, eggs. Like, well, what are you doing with eggs? I'm not paying you to make omelets. I'm not paying for you to go to school to make omelets.
His mom's quote in that scene is even more my favorite, because she's like, "Are you experimenting with alcohol?" And I was like, "Oh wow!" I was like, just from like a college perspective, like knowing my less strict parents and the kids that went there, I was like, I'd be doubting that their kids would probably be like, "Are you experimenting with this new?"
That is definitely a realistic moment of these parents, where she asks, "Are you experimenting with alcohol when he's in college?"
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think
let's see.
like those. Oh, is that another 30?
Oh no, we're good. We're good.
We're good.
Okay.
But this is about the time where we meet Hoyt Ambrose, or not Hoyt Ambrose, but also the dean of Harmon, isn't it? Where like they eventually talk about that whole gateway that they're trying to build.
So yeah,
Mhm.
and we've skipped over that where he's like, yes sir, and he's like, we're gonna make way for the Harmon Gateway, and then it's the
Right.
shot of it like flipping over for the Van Horn Gateway. It's like the most stupid reason. He's like, I want you to explore these decrepit properties, like which includes South Harmon.
Right. Growing up with this movie, I always thought that, like, in my mind, like when I was younger, I was being naive and I thought like, oh, like they must be like building something that's like very important to this school. Like it's gonna mean something. And then watching it again with you and then today, I was like, oh, they're just trying to build a place for people to walk in the school.
Right.
To
it's
reject more people. That's like his end game of it all, was to like reject more.
It's like a bougie. Wow. It's like a bougie element. Like, you hear about how I've always heard about how nice Indiana's campus is. I've always just heard it's so nice, and it's just like it's just like kind of that appeal of it, and it's also, I mean, it's a little like segregation is what Harmon is doing there. Is like, I want you to take out these decrepit properties, and we're going to gentrify them as Harmon,
Right, and that's a speech that Justin Long gives when he first visits the fraternity with Sherman, and then when he first like steals that kid's jacket. And starts talking to him about like, oh yeah, like I don't want to sign up for your like segregated frat. I'm just gonna leave, like he like brings up that segregation fact, and I was like, wow,
it's
like,
such
he's
a winning moment.
Yeah,
right. I'm like, he doesn't feel any need to do. He's like, fuck that.
No.
Yeah.
I found it strange how much the frat boys hung out with the dean. Like they're always together with the dean. Like these freshman frat boys are a part of like the planning for this school and like what they're gonna do.
He made the president of that frat like go buy all of these other places. like somehow this like 18-year-old student is able to go out and like purchase I'm like the beneficiary of the college somehow.
Right. He like comes to South Harmon like wearing a suit, looking like such a douchebag. He's like, I'm here to. Harmon's interested in buying this property, and he's and Bartleby's like, oh, that's an important job, like being totally sarcastic, and he's like, actually, it is really important. Like I love like whenever his dynamic with Floyd Ambrose is always really funny. I don't know what else happens at that scene with the jacket where like he talks to Monica again.
He talks to Monica again, but then that's where we actually see like Jonah Hill's character first in that like suit that he's in. Like he starts wearing those like very, in this scene he's like dressed up as a sperm, like in the middle of this like very formal fraternity party. So that's where we first get like the first whiff of that. Well,
and there's even the scene before that where he like falls on the pool cues.
Right.
And he meets Floyd Ambrose.
Right.
And he has just a weird exchange, a really weird exchange.
Wait, isn't that one of the names that Bartleby calls him? Like he keeps calling him the wrong. He's like Hoyt Pambrose, but he's like Floyd Pambrose. Floyd Ambrose. Yeah.
He's like my name is Floyd Pambrose. Isn't that weird?
Trying
to mess with his head.
He's like, that is really weird.
Yeah, they play Hoyt to be like very like gullible, and he's like, oh, that is weird.
That is weird. Huh? That is funny. And I think like, what does Schrader say when he thinks about like he's like,
think about her when I masturbate.
You date Monica Moreland. It's like, I think about her when I masturbate. Which is funny because they end up like being friends later because like Bartleby and Monica are real, like, getting real serious, I guess. So she's always around, and she's always actually, like, kind of, I don't know if she's actually feeling sorry for Schrader when she sees him, but
I thought throughout the movie that she was, but when you look back at that like first scene and she's like talking to Schrader for the first time, like Jonah Hill's character, like she
doesn't know
even
who he is
remember
at
who he
all.
is.
Right.
Like, yeah, he's like, oh, I sat in the back, like behind you, and she's just like has no idea like who this man is.
And in
like,
the ask me about my wiener scene, does she know him then? Does she acknowledge his presence in any way?
I assume she remembers him from like the first scene, but I don't recall that. I don't know if John, you know, if he did that.
I don't remember that. If if she remembers.
I mean, that's very specific. So.
Yeah, wasn't paying attention to that part. Yeah, but I guess like where we come next, isn't it sort of where Sherman is really trying to like be a part of the frat and everything, because the legacy. Yeah. That's another thing, is legacy.
He's like, that's right, legacy. And they don't give him anything. And I feel really bad for him. It's really sad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know. Yeah. It's his character through the whole movie is like it's like they play him off as just trying to fit in, but like at the same time it's like just showing him being bullied for like an hour and a half. So
yeah, and it's something he's supposed to have been fitting into because his dad like went to the fraternity and to that school. So it's like he's supposed to do all these things, you know, that he's really doesn't fit in doing. You know, obviously he'll probably do well at the school, it seems, but it's like really about the social element of college and how much pressure there is on fitting in.
I think next we have like the rock concert.
Yeah, I think like Schrader kind of gets hazed, and
right.
Oh yeah,
because we already covered where Monica visits the school,
right?
And she's like, this is amazing, Bartleby.
Right.
And he's like, sign up for a class, get on the ladder, sign up for a class just for fun, you know. And then she comes. I don't know. She ends up being at the party rock concert.
Right. And the reason she ended up there, I think, was because like Hoyd cheated on her at that party.
Yeah.
That like Schrader was dressed up as the sperm at, and like that to me was like, oh well, like they're really trying to play Hoyd off as like this like evil frat.
Oh, he's
character.
he's a douchebag.
Like a douche
right before he like starts, you know, cheating on Monica, he's like on his laptop going like, have you ever heard of the South Harmon Institute of Technology? And then he goes and just starts making out with her on the bed.
Yeah.
And then the party happened, and while the like Bartleby's singing hey, oh, let's go. Like they're at the frat, and he's like, where is it? Where the hell is everybody? You know,
right.
Floyd's like, where is everybody? This is the biggest party of the year.
They're all wearing like their hats and suits, like they're on like Kentucky Derby or something. Yeah,
it's such a dumb party, and what's good about the movie? Like as a kid, I never thought this frat ever looked cool. I think that's like a huge thing. Right. Like I was never like, I could see why Schrader wants to be a part of that frat. I was always actually kind of confused by it.
Yeah, I feel like it's just the legacy thing. It's
just like that. It's like it goes back to like what we talked about like at the beginning of the podcast, like where going to college is like the pleasing thing for your parents. And so for him it was almost like, I think like the pleasing thing was like, all right, he has to be part of this like legacy fraternity. Like it almost went on to two levels, like college, then the fraternity.
Yep.
Was kind of like his two levels.
As it goes later, he wanted to have the run of the mill college experience, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And so then at the party, eventually Floyd comes down to the show, and like Glenn has like 4 girls around him going like, which one is it going to be?
Pick one.
There's a lot of scenes through this party that are like super funny. Like there's a bunch of one-liners. Like they have like Barnaby take Monica to like his disco ballroom and
right.
that he has out, and then again it's another Monica scene where she's like, "Is this your room here? Like,
Yeah.
your design is."
Bartleby has like a 70s sex like porn
Right.
set as his dorm room.
And he's like, can I get you a drink? And it's such an adult thing.
Yeah. That's yeah. I guess and then is this where Hoyt comes in and tries to shut everything down?
And he's like, I forget what he says to him. He's just like, I don't know. Justin Long has some clever way of saying it, but he's just like, get out of here, or like, or no. He's like, Monica, what are you doing here? And Monica's like, I'm just transferring, which is like, which in the moment for her character is actually really empowering move, but it's actually kind of dumb that she's fucking she's transferred to this fake school that she actually got into. She's really technically the only person. She'll be the only student who got into another school. And
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Maybe the most respectable one in state, and she transferred to this fake school. And then that's when Bartleby goes like, oh snap! He's like, let me introduce you to Rejection. She's a bitch, or something like that.
He's like you can't roofie Rejection, and another like very frat oriented pun that he like gives this guy. Like
right.
He takes it so serious.
And so then they all basically, the frat guys get bounced out of there, and Schrader's like trying not to be seen while he's there because he's like dressed for the party there and shit. And
he's dressed like a pimp or something.
Yeah,
he's got like that whole purple suit on. Yeah. Like that's very noticeable. Got the feather.
And then they all leave, and he's like, have fun with these idiots, Monica.
And that's where he pulls that fire alarm to the party.
Right. And the music's like, don't you forget about me. It's just like such a jam.
Another early 2000s hit.
I've heard like that song so many times in this movie that like, I don't know, I just get such like nostalgia when like he pulls the fire alarm and they keep dancing. It's like, don't you forget about me. Basically, we should get to the scene where it's the Parents' Day scene. That's what comes next.
Yep.
Right. All the parents walk in and they're confused. And isn't that it kind of funny, a little ironic that no parent has come ever yet? That's kind of how they make it see.
Yeah.
I know so many
parents come. No one comes.
Yeah, so they all just show up at once. No parents have visited their kid, even though, I don't know, they don't ever make it seem like the college is that far away or anything like that. So, yeah, they all just show up.
Right.
And they suddenly try to improvise. All right, now it's the Parents' Day.
Right. I loved that they somehow were like Jason Long was like, all right, like Rory's gonna show you around the camp. Like he had it all set up. Like he was still being that character that he was at the beginning when he was doing the fake
shoves a lot
IDs.
of things on her where she's like, okay, everyone, I'll show you your rooms or something like that. Right. Like he just assigns her that she's like the resident advisor or whatever that title is, you know.
Yeah.
Then the Dean Van Horn comes in on a golf cart, possibly. Nah, maybe that's earlier.
I think they walk in.
I think he might just walk in. Yeah,
he walks in with his team.
Cops there too. Yeah,
right.
Oh yeah, he walks in with his team of frat bros, and he just basically, spills the whole lie, turns it all on its head, and then his dad's like, you've done some stupid things in your life, Bartleby, but this.
a very boomer way of going about it.
I just love it. It's just such an obvious thing to say too. Is like, this was probably the dumbest thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
How stupid are you for buying this, though? Mr.
Yeah,
Gates?
right.
That is true. Yeah.
How long were you gonna let this go on if this didn't?
Right?
if
Was
this
he
guy
gonna
didn't come?
Was he gonna graduate and
Right.
everything? You know.
Print out a diploma and everything, and
Yeah. He has another montage where he's doing the diploma logo.
Again, it's like the dun 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 as he's going through the diploma. Yeah, he's finishing up.
And so then literally it's like, all right, now we're all going home. Like it's just unanimously every kid is going back home with their parents. And then he turns to Hans, and he has a very real moment with Hans where he's like, I'm sorry, man. And he's like, it's all right, we tried. You know, it's like and you're like, damn, it didn't work out.
And you never really like see Hans' parents, like they're just like in the background, like
very
upset.
They're just disappointed.
You just assume they're the same as Barnaby's parents.
Yeah,
so,
they're
like they're
so,
like the same.
They're just furious, and they don't ever show Monica's parents because Monica's parents think she goes to Harmon, so they don't show up.
Right.
But Monica's just like, none of this is real, and she just walks off, and she's like, I'm done with this guy. I'm dating another idiot. I'm sick of idiots. One cheated on me, another started a fake college that I started going to. So then we got the drummer kick montage. And if you haven't noticed, this movie has 8 montages, each one in which Barnaby's discovers another thing, which leads to another plot point. And that's just kind of how this movie runs. And so then he's like, we can apply for accreditation, you know, and they're all at the back of the juice stand like immediately, like before, and they think he's like crazy for doing it, blah blah blah. And then Jonah Hill comes back, and he just, I don't know, has a moment where he realizes that he would fit in better at this school, and that he was the one who applied to accreditation. Which makes sense because he'd be this one who's smart enough to do it.
All right.
And then we have the big application scene where he walks up with Lewis Black and he's all suited up. It's kind of funny because they get him out of his, like, I don't know, drunk trailer life, and they always suit him up and like drag him place, and he's like, I know, kid, we're gonna say things and blah blah blah, you know.
And I love when they like first get there and they talk to like whoever's running the desk, and they're like, oh, we've moved you to like the very grand hall of this very government courthouse that we're in, and they're just like, oh, why is that? And they're like, because it's so big, and they walk in, every single student from like South Harmon that got like fooled is like their support for some reason, like even though they all walked away on Parents' Day, it's like they're all supporting this school.
Like, oh, fuck this guy, and then the next day they're like, they're like cheering him on.
Right. Somehow they found out about it too. And then it's supposed to be Lewis Black who starts it off, but instead he's like, nope, you're doing this, Bartleby. And he's like, no one knows these kids better than you. So they say, like, you need to have a faculty, a facility, a faculty, and I think the third thing is
it's like a curriculum. Like the
class. A curriculum. Yeah. And he's like, so we definitely have a facility. He's like, we got a half pipe, we got a building, you know, like all that stuff, and I don't know, I think and then for the faculty, they like all the students stand up, and he's like, students cannot be teachers. Like, right. And then like Lewis Black stands up when they realize they have nobody. He's like, faculty stands.
And they bring out, for the curriculum, then they bring out the big
whiteboard.
And
he's
they're
like,
all
how does
explaining
one
what
major in bumper stickers?
Yeah.
Slacking off 101.
Yeah.
He's like, that's not a class.
How cute.
So
Yeah.
against it, yeah.
Right.
And then they're like all explaining what they do. Like in Rock Your Faces Off 420, we learn how to like enjoy music how it's meant to be.
Right.
Yeah, like they're all
I love when
We-
Rory explains like what walking around and thinking about stuff means, because she was like, we're just gonna like walk and think about like what we want to do with our lives and like a stress-free environment. And for me, I was like, wow, that actually sounds like a great class. I would like.
That's
love
actually
to take.
like
there
stuff,
should be a class
that's
like that.
very
need,
valuable.
like,
Yeah.
I was like, that could actually be something real. And I was like, these kids are making like, but then they went to the rocking your faces off class.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That's really
He's
funny.
like, what? Music of a lost generation.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're like, he's like going down his list, he's checking off, and then Barnell and he's like, do you have a final statement, Mr. Gaines? And Bartleby's like, he goes on this speech to this day, actually, I still think is really great. Like, just this whole, and it's one of Justin Long's like finer acting moments for me, because it's a moment in a movie that should be, I don't know, more or less like a simple, like kind of stupid comedy, but it ends up being a real like inspirational, meaningful thing, just partly because of just Justin Long's acting flexing that he's doing here, and just the fact that you're with him and you believe everything he's saying. And he's like, I'm a face of rejection, I could see it on your faces. And he, it's just, he really is pulling your heartstrings there. And he goes against like everything. Like he has like a deep philosophical like argument on just like about like the whole system, and he's like calling out everyone in the building. He's like, did you guys really want to be college administrators? You know what I mean? Like, and even his dad, like, which doesn't really speak to any of his characters, like, yeah, at one point his dad goes like, yeah. He's like, oh, maybe you wanted to be a poet, maybe you wanted to be an artist, and I don't know, he just kind of like stands by everything they did, which like throughout this whole movie, it kind of all does look like nonsense what they're doing, but like in that moment, I do believe like that they actually were like, I don't know, like bettering themselves at this fake school just because of how well acted it is to me.
Yeah, he really, man, he goes all out for these inspirational speeches throughout
He's
this
like,
movie.
we don't need you to tell us to know that what we did was real.
So go ahead and sign your papers.
Yeah.
And of course he gets like the ovation from like the rest of the kids.
He's like, because we will never stop learning. We'll never stop learning. We'll never stop this. He's like, because you can't take that away from us. And then they all stand up and he's
like shaking his hands up in the air.
Yeah, right.
Go on.
He's like, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead. All in there.
Right. It's like, I mean, I think Justin Long to that point in the movie has been really great, but that moment really comes out of nowhere. I'm like, whoa, holy shit, what is this, like an Oscar movie all of a sudden?
Yeah, right. It's a deep speech. Like it brings up some points that like a lot of people have been arguing like from the college standpoint for like a long time.
Yeah.
Like, so I was like, wow, this is like a deeper section of the movie. Like, and of course they turn it right around and the guy's like, I would like to play jazz trombone, or like whatever. But like,
I wanted to play jazz trombone.
Yeah. But up until that point, I was like, wow, this speech that like Justin Long is giving with like this whole crowd here, I was like, this is like a really good scene that they've just zoomed up on him and let him talk. I was like, wow.
When I was a kid, I would just like, just watch it and just be so into it every time. It would just uplift me through the next day always. Yeah. And so then they're accredited, and
they don't really show a lot of that Harmon school after they're accredited.
No,
like,
they
they're
don't
like,
at all.
Like they just show the dean. He's like, oh shucks, he just like walks out of the meeting room. Yeah.
They're accredited, and I think Blake Lively's got her camera. She's like, I'm a photography major now, and Jonah Hill says he's teaching something. What does he say he's teaching? It's like,
oh, he says like skepticism 101.
Yeah, skepticism 101.
Which for me, I was like, wow, that's a crazy topic for them.
That's a broad subject.
Yeah, I was like,
and then like Monica's like, I haven't picked out my dorm room yet. He's like, ooh, maybe we'll have to share a dorm room. And they do not have great chemistry.
Throws in like
the
weird, awkward sexual tension of the movie.
Yeah, it's like oh, okay, they're gonna have sex this semester. Right. Okay, we get it. You know, and what does the movie go out on? You know, it's like so big, like, you know.
Yeah, so first there's like that shot where it's like pulling back and it's like welcome shitheads and everybody's all there, and then it like right away cuts to this car blowing up.
Oh, the car scene, yeah.
Right.
And it's the dean's car, and it's like, and first it's like, oh my god, did they just try to murder the dean? Like, this is terrible.
This is some assassination attempt.
Well, it's like the amount of trouble they're in already, and they just had that like, you know, that hearing where they say that like they can be an institution, but they have to like still meet requirements. And then this dude's just blowing up the dean's car who like was like going after them previously. So it's just really not a smart move on their part at all.
And he just goes, told you. And then it cuts the credits right away.
And you're just kind of supposed to like believe that the college just will go on forever, you know. This will continue. But I love the thought of that, actually. Really, like fuck man, I'm such an accepted nerd, clearly, that like if they like were even to be like, we're gonna make a series with the future classes of South Harmon and see how, like, I would want to see how it like progresses, you know, like what other facilities does the school get, what other care, you know, like there's a lot you could do with it, really, like as a television series, like each, you know, there's the different characters that roll through the school, the different you know, you can have a more Lewis Black type like wacko instructors in there, all this shit, you know.
Yeah, I like that.
I just love this.
We should do that.
We should write that.
Where's the script for it, guys? I was gonna say we should gotta see.
I just like this world, you know. I like this this world.
It was funny when we were talking at the beginning of the podcast about like community colleges. I was thinking to myself like, wow, like she just accepted too. Just someone creates their own community college because they can't even get a real college like in their midst.
They have to make a
fake community college just to get into college. I was like, that'd be
you got to go through the fake, like the 2 years of associates at the fake community college to get to South Harmon.
In order to get to South Harmon, you have to make it through this fake community college that someone builds. But yeah, I mean, overall the movie really like represents like a 2000s feel of like an early 2000s feel of like what all the boomer parents thought college versus what the younger like generation was thinking college was going to be like, and they just mixed it together in a way.
Yeah, for sure. And this will always be like a timeless movie for me for that purpose, because it just hones in on that college mentality and like just plays off of it really well for me, that I will always find it funny, because I did grow up in a similar like absurd environment of like, you go to college, Luke.
Right.
You go to college, Brendon, you go to college.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely catered towards us suburban kids, and and our nuclear families and everything.
Family, the ones that you hear it your whole lives from pretty much the time you hit first grade to when you're older. Just go to college, regardless if your parents went to college or not. It was just like, now you're in this age, you're going to college. Like it's a fact.
Well, and I think we were an age where college started to become more among society, became even more like necessary, you know. Like it felt like that's what they said the job market was. If you don't go to college nowadays, you're fucked, or sort of thing. Our parents' generation was you could not go to college, and also it wasn't so fucking expensive. our parents' generation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, even like looking back all the way at like the dinner scene with Barnaby and his parents, like when he was talking about saving like $80,000, and this was back in like 2006. I was like, wow, that's
cheap.
Yeah, right. I was like, that's a good price. I was like, I think
that's
just for going to like Central Michigan, like I went to, not even U of M or Michigan State, like I almost paid like 20 grand like a year, and that's just a college in like a farmland. I'm not in a major city like NYU or anything like that. I was like, wow, $10,000 a year, it's not bad. But for him back then, like, but for that movie, it was like, wow, that's crazy that he could make 80,000 versus losing 80,000. Now it's like double. Now it's like I could save 160,000 instead of going
it really is.
So it's like, wow, it's like looking back at 2006, I was like, I wish I was saving $80,000 if I go in there.
Well, this was fun, guys. I needed to look back on this film. It was necessary,
and it's fun.
And thank you for coming, Brendon. You were a great guest because you clearly know you're accepted.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, man. I got to watch this movie in extra time, and the Cinebums are always on my favorite Spotify page, as you've seen when you're at my house.
Oh yeah, so. And we appreciate your dedicated listening as well.
Yes. Got to look at my Spotify. I saw in the last podcast, you're like, I saw Brendon's Spotify with Cinebums on it. So I was like,
John, do we have time for one more quick thread?
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to if Brendon, if you could send us out on just like, I don't know, like, because John and I like need to get more up to date on this year's films, and it's a good relevant thing to talk about on a movie podcast. If you could just tell us maybe some of your fave like movies you've watched this year so far, and also like for the rest of the year, some things you're looking forward to.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I mean, there's a few movies that I've seen so far. I'll try and make it quick. I mean, obviously The Green Knight, I think, is at the top of my list for this whole
That's what
year.
everyone says, and I haven't seen it.
A24 just hit it out of the ballpark there. That was another movie that I saw on my own. I think I could probably list like half the movies that were probably on my own. Shiva Baby was a really great film that I thought was really underrated because it came out at the beginning of the year, so it might not get as much Oscar attention as a lot of other films. But it was directed by what's her name? Emma. I think it was Emma Singleman. And I think that was like her first film, and the Shiva Baby was based off a short that they had. So it was really great to see this film actually come to part. And I mean, it was pretty much about a college student just in a totally different area than accepted. And I really loved seeing the whole like Jewish family dynamic, because that's what the whole thing was about. It was a big family reunion for a funeral, which, I mean, you and me, Luke, have seen that dynamic, but it was from like this very strict family standpoint. So it almost made me feel like our family. So I loved that. And I think the last one that I'll talk about is The Night House. And I feel like this movie should be talked about a lot more. I got to see it in the theater. I saw it on my own. It's directed by David. I'm looking up his name right now. David Bruckner. He was the same guy that directed both The Ritual and VHS. So
gotcha.
Two kind of like darker films, but this film really jumped into like a lot of dark. I figured it as another very big pop jump scare kind of film, horror film. I'm a big horror fan, and that was the big film for me this year. I loved The Night House.
All right.
I told you,
with October around the corner, it's a good one to check out.
It was a good one to check out. As for movies coming up, I mean, obviously Dune is on my huge list to see.
I was looking at movies today. Dune's like end of October, so I'll probably go see that.
It's going to be an interesting film. I'm excited to see that. I know Marvel's new film Eternals is going to come out later in November, and that one I'm a little more excited for versus the other Marvel films, because I know the Marvel films don't hit the Oscar
spectrum, Wes Anderson film French Dispatch comes out like a day after or before Dune.
Yeah, I am excited about that one as well. The director, though, for that Eternals movie is going to be the same director that directed Nomadland with Frances McDormand.
Okay.
They brought
Chloe
her in. Yeah, Chloe Zhao.
Yeah.
They brought her in to do this film, and so I feel like it might be a very.
When does that come out again, John? Brendan.
I think it's like a early November release, so first or second week in November.
All right, cool.
And I love
know
Chloe
Zhao
after
because Nomadland was awesome.
I love Nomadland, and so for this one, for me, I was like, maybe this would be more like the Black Panther film that fell into the Oscar nomination versus a lot of the other Marvel films that they come out with. I was like, Chloe Zhao does a good enough job with Nomadland to make this movie good. So and I'm sure there's a lot of indie films I'm missing, but The French Dispatch is definitely on my list for coming up. I'm pretty excited about that one.
I saw the Adam McKay movie trailer, and I thought that looked good, like decent. I mean, he's kind of weird now, Adam McKay, but I was into that trailer. I don't know if that comes out this year or next year though.
Yeah, I can't remember that one.
A lot of movies. Yeah.
But I know The Matrix comes out in December, and I haven't seen that trailer yet, but people say it's. I heard that's like a good trailer. It looks really cool. And
that'll be a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
I also saw the Many Saints in Newark trailer, which is actually the first. It's like the next movie for me. Is like the beginning of October would be the Many Saints in Newark, because that just looks awesome.
Right.
Yeah, that's coming up.
A movie that I haven't seen yet, and I think it's actually already out. John or Luke, you might be able to correct me on it, but I think it's Aniette with Adam Driver is going to be. It's either out right now or it's coming out, but that actually to me looked like a movie that could really stand out this year as well. I know it goes a little bit about a stand-up comedian. I think that's what Adam Driver plays in it. And it looks really
and it's got Marion Cotillard in it
does,
too.
Marion Cotillard, and then I think Simon Helberg is in there as well. I'm
actually looking forward to this too. And I think The House of Gucci comes out too.
Is that right? I didn't know if it came out this year.
It's House of Gucci's isn't that who's that again? Ridley Scott or whatever?
Yeah, I think so. And,
Adam Driver, Salma Hayek, Ridley Scott. Yeah, I'm looking. And
Lady Gaga too.
Lady Gaga, yeah.
Lady Gaga, wow, yeah.
And Al Pacino. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that a lot too.
Yeah, there's a good ending to this year, of course, for Oscar season. So I'm sure there might be a few that we might not even know about yet that they'll pop up with. So we'll have to see.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Seems like a good place to end it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Thanks for joining again, Brendon.
Of course. Thanks, John. Thanks, Luke, for having me on here. Big fan of the podcast. So hopefully I get to come back at some point.
Oh wow, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll definitely
think
have you on
something.
again.
Love it.